In the past, we discussed D&D actions and how to use them to attack. We mentioned armor classes, which determine when you get hit or not, and we also explored character creation, when you get your equipment. All of these things rely on weapons and armor, but what exactly do they do? How do you use them? And what rules do they require? Welcome to Arcadian. This is the D&D tutorial, and today we talk about the rules of weapons and armor in D&D. Armor is the easiest, so let's start there. Imagine two human beings trying to hit one another. If they have no modifiers to their strength and no proficiency in punching, how likely is one to hit the other? According to D&D, the answer is 55%. Why? Because the standard AC of a non-armored human is 10, meaning if you roll a d20 to hit them and you have no modifiers, you will hit on a 10 or higher. Those are 11 out of the 20 faces of the die, meaning 55%. But humans can dodge, right? The quickest should have an upper hand defending. That is why a character's armor class is calculated by adding the 10 we just mentioned to your dexterity modifier. Imagine you have a +2 to dexterity. That means your AC raises to 12, and any enemy will have to roll 2 numbers higher to hit you. Because a d20 has 20 sides, each representing 5%, each number you raise your AC by makes you 5% more resistant to enemy attacks. And that is what AC is in essence, a probability measure of you getting hit. Higher AC is good. Can we increase it even more? Yes, we can. Armor is what we need. So how does that work? First, we must understand the types of armor in the game. There are 3 big types: light, medium, and heavy armor. Heavier armors give you higher AC boosts, but also limit your speed and stealth more. And it isn't as simple as choosing the armor you want from all the possible ones either. As the book puts it, anyone can put on a suit of armor, but you need to be trained with it to use it effectively. In other words, you need proficiency. During character creation, your class will tell you which armors you are proficient with, between light, medium, and heavy. Putting on a piece of armor for which you lack proficiency still gives you the appropriate AC boost, but all the extra encumbrance you aren't used to also gives you disadvantage on any ability checks, saving throws, and attack rolls requiring strength or dexterity, and prevents you from using spells. But let's say you do have proficiency with your armor of choice. What are the benefits then? Well, it depends on the armor. Each type has several options. Within light armor, you can choose between padded armor, leather, or studded leather. For medium armor, there's hide, chain shirts, scale mail, breastplates, and half plates. And for heavy armor, you have ring mail, chain mail, splint, and full plate armor. Each of these armors have different advantages, different disadvantages, and most importantly, different prices. But if this sounds like a lot, don't worry, it is all conveniently organized in page 145 of the player's handbook. The cost column in the table tells you how much each piece costs. Some armor will be too expensive for you to get when you're still low level. The AC column tells you to what value they will improve your base AC. Light armor raises your AC from 10 to 11 or 12, depending on which one you buy, and you still get to add your dexterity modifier on top of it. For medium armor, you raise your AC from 10 to something between 12 and 15, and you can also add your dex modifier, but capped at +2. This means that even if you have a modifier of +5, for example, your AC will still be whatever your base AC for that armor is, +2, only 2. And finally, heavy armor is so stiff that it nullifies the bonus your dexterity would give to your defense. Your AC is the value for that armor, no more, no less. Now, most heavy armors are quite heavy. That's what the strength column is for. If you have one of those and your strength is lower than the requirement, you are slowed down and your speed reduces by 10 feet. Some armor is also quite noisy and makes it more difficult for you to sneak around. If your armor has disadvantage written on the stealth column, that means that it causes you to have disadvantage in all your stealth checks. Oh, and let's not forget about shields. Those are also armor, but don't really fit in any of the armor types from before, although you still need proficiency with them to use them. They add a +2 bonus to whatever your AC is while you use them, but you can only gain this benefit from one shield at a time. After you choose your armor, just read the AC it gives you, sum your dexterity modifier if allowed, add +2 if you have a shield, and that's it. You have your AC. That's whatever the enemies will need to roll to hit you. Now let's talk about weapons. As we've discussed in the video about how combat works in D&D, to attack you need to roll to hit, adding the relevant ability modifiers and the proficiency bonus if applicable, and if you hit, you roll for damage. I never explained precisely how the damage roll was made, because that depends completely on the weapon you use. Every weapon has an associated damage die, which, like it happens in the armors, is all neatly organized in a table on page 149 of the book. For example, a club makes 1d4 bludgeoning damage, meaning you roll 1d4 to calculate its damage. And since that happens, the damage can go from 1 to 4. Now, stronger weapons can roll damage with dice with more sides, meaning you can deal more damage, such as the Great Club, for example, which makes 1d8 bludgeoning damage. Now you might be thinking, then what is the advantage of using a club if there's a Great Club that can do twice as much damage? It happens that weapons are quite simpler to use than armor. You don't need proficiency to use them. The only disadvantage of using one for which you lack proficiency is just really not adding the proficiency bonus to the attack roll, and they have no special rules to determine the AC or modifiers or whatever. They are what they are as explained in the table. However, they have a lot of different characteristics, which might make them more advantageous in certain situations or for certain characters. Let's go through the table again. You will notice that there are 4 great divisions: simple melee, simple ranged, martial melee, and martial ranged. The rules are all the same for these, they are just types, like the armors had, for you to know in which weapons you have proficiency during character creation, without the book needing to list every single weapon in existence for you to know. If it says you have proficiency with simple weapons, you have proficiency with all simple weapons, including melee and ranged. And if it says you also have proficiency with martial weapons, then you are proficient with pretty much all the weapons. There are different costs for each one, different damages, but then you get to the properties column, and this is where you really see what makes a weapon different from all the others. I will not detail each weapon in specific right now. If you'd like to see such a deep dive, watch the video until the end, you might find something to your liking. However, I will explain all the properties and give examples of the most iconic weapons which use them for you to be able to make sense of this table on your own. The most important property, in my opinion, is the finesse. Rule of the thumb, you add your strength modifier to all attack and damage rolls for melee attacks and your dexterity one for ranged attacks. However, some weapons can be wielded not just by brute force, but also with precision, elegance, and nimbleness. These are the weapons with the finesse property, such as the dagger, the short sword, or the rapier. When using these finesse weapons, you can use your dexterity modifier instead of strength, even when making melee attacks. You must use the same modifier for the attack and damage roll, and also bear in mind that your character can still make attacks using strength. They get to choose in every single attack which modifier they use. The counterpart to finesse is the thrown property. Some weapons, like the hand axe or the javelin or the spear, can be thrown at a distance with brute force instead of delicate precision. If you throw these weapons, you use the same modifier to attack as in melee, meaning you can rely on strength to throw a hand axe, for example, if your dexterity is really bad. Since the dart and the net are not melee weapons, even though they have the thrown property, you can still use the dexterity with them. And as for the dagger, which also has thrown, because it is a finesse weapon as well, it is still possible to throw it with dexterity. Since we're talking about ranged attacks, let's explain the range property as well. All weapons that can perform ranged attacks have their range in parentheses on the table, shown as 2 numbers split by a slash. These indicate in feet how far can your attack reach. The first number is the weapon's normal reach, while the second is its long range. You can only attack targets within the reach of your long range, but if you attack a target further away than your normal range, you must roll the attack with disadvantage. Still on the topic of ranged weapons, there are 2 important properties to mention here as well: ammunition and reload. Weapons with ammunition like bows, sling, and crossbows require, well, ammunition. This one is quite straightforward. You can only attack if you have the ammunition. Drawing the ammunition and placing it on the weapon is considered part of the attack, no need to give it any extra thought, unless the weapon also has the loading property, which is the case for crossbows. If so, because those weapons are complicated to load, you can only shoot 1 ammunition per action regardless of how many attacks you can do with a single one. It's as if you're spending the other one reloading the weapon. Melee weapons are a bit easier. The ones with the heavy property like greatswords, longbows, and halberds have this advantage when used by small creatures. They're too big for them. Weapons with reach, like the lance or the whip, have an additional 5 feet of reach beyond the standard 5-foot reach of melee weapons. Two-handed weapons like bows, greatswords, or mauls require 2 hands to be used. Light weapons are the opposite. They are so light you can wield one in each hand, enabling you to use a bonus action to attack with the offhand weapon as per the 2-weapon fighting rules. These include daggers, scimitars, short swords, and others. Versatile weapons are in the middle of these two. They can be wielded with just one hand, but you can also choose to use 2, making them more powerful. For these weapons, like the quarterstaff, the spear, or the longsword, if you use the 2 weapons, you'll deal the damage in the parentheses next to the versatile property instead of the regular damage. There are 2 weapons that have the special property, meaning they are so particular that they have their own set of rules. These are the lance and the net. For the lance, you have disadvantage to attack targets within 5 feet of you, and you treat it as a 2-handed weapon when not mounted. As for the net, when you hit a creature, large or smaller, you can also restrain it. More about D&D conditions in the video up there in the eye. And just like that, we briefly covered all the armor and weapons of the player's handbook. I apologize if this was all too abstract and for not listing all the available weapons. I always try to make these videos as short as possible, but if you'd like a deeper dive, I will make, fairly soon, a video listing all the available weapons, complete with pictures, revisiting the properties of each one, maybe even delving a little bit on their historical uses. If you're from the future, maybe that video is out already. Look for it in the eye up there. Armor and weapons are a very iconic part of the game, but shouldn't be a game stopper. If you feel intimidated by the list and all the mechanics, I encourage you to do the same thing as I say to people who don't know which class to choose. Just pick the one that sounds the most appealing and go learn only that one. And if you have any particular question, ask in the comments below. I will answer it as soon as possible. And that is all for now. Like, subscribe, and share if you want to help out. Check out my social media for the latest on my RC projects. And if you want more, there's a whole playlist of videos here for you to see. Requests are also very welcome, so be sure to write yours in the comments down below in the Underdark. Thank you for watching. I'm the first Arcadian, and I think you just brought a knife to a gunfight.